Welcome to the UFC Vegas 105 prop drop, talking about all of the props for these matchups, briefly going over every single matchup once again, but just highlighting the props that I like for every single matchup, whether it's the ones that I would bet on or the ones I would consider as a hedge opportunity if I find myself too exposed on the other side. So hopefully you guys have been finding some value and use to this segment as I've been dropping it throughout the year. So let's get right into this bad boy. First matchup up, Talita Alencar going up against Vanessa Demopoulos. I do like me some Alencar in this spot, and I think her high-level BJJ could allow her to find a submission here against Demopoulos, which you can currently get at plus 700. I know there was some controversy regarding the last submission loss on Demopoulos' record against Jacqueline Amorim, but Alencar is still a very high-level BJJ specialist, and if she can get even a bite on any of these submission attempts at plus 700, I think you're rolling pretty well there. On the flip side, for Demopoulos, we know she gets away with a lot of weird decisions, some split decisions, some majority decisions, but even for her to win up straight up by decision at plus 145 is the line that you can get on her there. All right, next up, Victor Henry going up against Pedro Falcao. I think Henry sets a high pace that not a lot of opponents are able to keep up with, but that doesn't often translate to him wearing opponents down enough to eventually finish them later on. So I think he actually ends up taking this one to the scorecards. You can get that at minus 120. And then on the flip side for Falcao, I don't see a path in which he wins this fight on the scorecards, as I think Henry is the better minute winner. So if Falcao does end up winning, I think it comes inside the distance, which you can currently get at plus 360, but Henry has only been finished once in his pro career, and I'd be surprised if Falcao was the one to give him the second loss by finish. All right, next up, Loma Lookboonmee going up against Estela Nunes. More often than not, these women do find themselves going to the scorecards, but considering how they match up here, I think this is a very winnable fight for Lookboonmee, especially inside the distance. You can get her to win in round 2 at plus 950. You can get her to win in round 3 at plus 1300. And then on the flip side for Nunes, normally her explosivity and athleticism come into play early in fights, leading to first round finishes. And for her to win in round 1 in this matchup, you're looking at plus 2900. Not a bad hedge spot, especially if you find yourself parlaying Loma Lookboonmee in multiple spots. All right, next up, McKee going up against Daniel Frunza. I think this is a great matchup for McKee to showcase his volume-based approach, touching opponents up from distance, mixing it up a little bit in the clinch. But I think it's going to be difficult for him to put Frunza away, who's usually difficult to put away. So McKee to win by decision, you can currently get at plus 420. On the flip side for Frunza, I think if he wins this fight, it likely comes with him knocking McKee out, which you can currently get at plus 190. Frunza has kind of, snatched victory from the jaws of defeat in the past, and it's absolutely possible he can do it here against McKee, but I'm expecting McKee's durability to hold up and his ability to just put high numbers on Frunza to frustrate him and eventually win this fight on the scorecards. All right, next up, Diani Barbosa going up against Diana Belbita. Striker versus grappler here is pretty straightforward and simple. I think Barbosa by submission at plus 110 is the best way to attack this matchup. My conspiracy theory here is if Barbosa doesn't sink in the choke, maybe she postures up by getting the back of Belbita and starts raining down big shots, and she's able to cash the plus 900 ticket on her to win by KO TKO. So something to consider there. But, more often not, looking to get that submission plus 110 kind of makes sense, especially when you're talking about a fighter that's minus 1100. On the flip side for Belbita, no real finishing power, no real threat in that aspect of things. For her to win probably comes by decision, which is what you can get at plus 1200. All right, this should be an absolute barn burner here between Davy Grant and Daniel Santos. I'm expecting plenty of pocket exchanges here, and Grant thrives in those types of matchups, especially considering that none of his losses have come by knockout. Now we're going to see him go up against Santos, and I think that both guys will land big shots, but I think it'll ultimately be Grant that lands the big shot to put Santos away here, and you can get Grant to win by knockout at plus 750. On the flip side, you can get Daniel Santos to win inside the distance at plus 210. So something to consider there. He can either get the knockout, I think. He has enough power to do so. I'd be surprised if he's the one that ends up cracking the durability of Grant. And then on the flip side, he might get a club and sub, because that is also a form in way Grant has lost in the past. All right, next up, Osbourne going up against Gurule. I love me some Gurule in this spot. Obviously, he was a part of my Locky two-step / Locky Trinity that I dropped yesterday. Was able to get in on him early in the week around that minus 200 line. Now finding himself around minus 265. And you would obviously expect his props to be taking a little bit of a hit there too, specifically his round 3 prop, which is one that I'm privy on here at plus 800. You can mix it with the KO prop, which I think is probably the best way to go with him, but just taking that straight up round 3 prop at plus 800 might be the best way to go here. And then on the flip side for Osbourne, I think his only way to really win this fight is to actually get that first round finish, which you can get at plus 900. I just don't see it happening. I think Gurule is durable enough. I think the pace he'll set is going to cause Osbourne problems from jump, but I think it'll ultimately be Gurule in round 3 to get the dub. All right, next up, Valentin going up against Finney. Weird matchup here. I can't really get a full-on grasp here. Obviously, Finney, we know he's going to want to grapple Valentin, get him to the ground, but it's just a matter of time before Finney faces the resistance that's ultimately going to give him his first pro loss. And I think Valentin is absolutely capable of that, considering the type of violent nature in which he fights. I'm leaning Valentin, putting up enough of resistance here to slow down Finney late and cash that round 3 ticket, which you can currently get at plus 1400. And then on the flip side for Finney, I think he's going to struggle to put Valentin away. And if he wins, it'll ultimately be on the scorecards, which you can get at plus 250. All right, next up, Tavares going up against Meerschaert. I love me some Meerschaert. This is a guy that often finds himself behind in fights after round 1, but then really starts to get his shit together in the second and third rounds, and I think that's where he'll end up doing his best work. Meerschaert to win by sub, plus 420, round 2 sub, plus 1300, round 3 sub, plus 2100, and then on the flip side for Tavares, very difficult for him to put guys away. Meerschaert has normally shown good enough durability, and I just don't think Tavares packs the power that's going to cause Meerschaert problems here, so even if Tavares wins, it will likely come on the scorecards, which you can get at plus 105. Our next up, Kennedy and Nzechukwu going up against Martin Buday. This is a fight that I expect to end up hitting the scorecards, which you can get a fight to go decision at plus 130. Kennedy and Nzechukwu to win by decision plus 200, and Martin Buday to win by decision at plus 700. Again, that Buday decision prop is not a bad hedge, considering if he wins this fight, it likely looks like him pushing Nzechukwu up against the cage, wearing him down, and landing some dirty boxing and enough damage to end up getting his hand raised on the scorecards. My prediction is Nzechukwu by decision, but that Buday prop is definitely worth a consideration. All right, next up, Chang Ho Lee going up against Romious. You can currently get the fight to go to decision at minus 145. Now, I expect this to be a pretty back and forth grapple heavy matchup with both guys finding reversals, but ultimately Lee being the one establishing dominant positions and getting good control time while dishing out the damage as well. You can get the fight to go to decision at minus 145. You can get Lee to win by decision at plus 165. And then you can get Romious to win by decision at plus 220. So those are the options that you guys have there. All right, co-main event, Joe Anderson, Brito going up against Pat Sabatini. Fun fight here. Kind of a grappler versus striker matchup in a sense. But I'm liking Brito. And I'm thinking Brito, round 1 knockout, you can get at plus 360. Sabatini's last 3 losses have all come within 90 seconds of the first round taking place. And he's been starched in all of those fights. And I think Brito can follow suit there. On the flip side, Sabatini to win by decision plus 500. Sabatini to win by submission plus 450. So you would consider either of those 2 spots. I'm thinking the former in terms of the decision prop, but I ultimately think it's going to be Brito that shuts it all down and wins by round 1 knockout. And the main event, very fun fight here, will be a big test for Lerone Murphy, having to avoid the big power of Josh Emmett for the entirety of 25 minutes, because I think he's going to struggle to put Josh Emmett away, which will ultimately lead to Murphy winning this fight on the scorecards, which you can currently get at plus 100. On the flip side, Josh Emmett to win by knockout, you can get that at plus 500. But I'm really thinking the Brit will be able to put together a better body of work, mixing in the clinch, the grappling, and the striking to avoid the big power of Emmett and win it by 25-minute decision here. Like I said, Murphy by decision at plus 100. All right, let's get to the top 3 best prop bets and the long shot. Last week We hit the Emmers and Miranda alternate total under 1.5 at plus 125. I thought we were going to get the Austin Hubbard decision at plus 230. Again, very close fight all around. And then the Ronaldo Rodriguez decision or submission plus 380 does not come through. He looks like a shell of himself in that matchup. And then the long shot Christian Rodriguez by knockout plus 900 almost came to fruition in that third round, considering the type of aggression he was showing. And I was wishing that he kept it on the feet a little bit longer so he could start throwing a little bit more and possibly landing that knockout, but that was not meant to be. All right, let's try to cash one of these or two of these, or hopefully all three of these best prop bets and the long shot for UFC Vegas 105. The first one up is going to be Reese McKee by decision at plus 420, Deani Barbosa by submission plus 110, and then Joe Anderson Brito round 1 KO plus 360. And the long shot, I usually like going 4-digit plus 4-digit numbers, but I'm going to have to take a little bit of a hit there. Go with Luis Gurule round 3 plus 800. I really think that he finishes Osbourne in that final round. Plus 800 is enough for me to bite on that prop. There you guys go. Prop drop for UFC Vegas 105. Very happy to finally get this out for you guys. Hopefully, we cashed on PFL yesterday. And obviously, we got Octagon going down Saturday afternoon. So if you're looking for breakdowns for Octagon, I got you covered on the Lock of the Night Patreon page. Otherwise, good luck on all your action this weekend, folks. And I'll see you guys Sunday, probably evening, for the UFC 314 full card breakdown. See you guys then. Peace.